It's Deathchase. It's 3D, but it's not 3D Deathchase. It's our Sinclair live from BOATFEST. Hi everybody, welcome to our Sinclair. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Deathchase. Aaron, have you ever been chased while in a vehicle?
Yeah, I have a couple times actually. Mostly during pizza deliveries.
Really?
Back in the day, yeah. There's something about, because you know, a lot of people are spoiled now because they got your GPS and your telephone and stuff. Back in the day, we didn't get I had to get to my routes via mailing address. And you got all these creeks and stuff. And sometimes you make a wrong turn. Sometimes it'd be foggy or something. And you go up the wrong driveway and people be chasing you. I got shot at 2 different times. And I got chased in cars a couple times doing that. And also one time I think I was chased by cultists.
Wow.
But that's a whole other story. But
wow.
Yeah, so definitely Deathchase, it happened. What about
I've seen some movies where pizza delivery drivers walk in to like sorority parties and things like that. Did that happen to you too?
You know, there's a surprising lack of sororities in Hurricane.
That's
probably because of the lack of a college, for example.
We're not educated.
Yeah, so no, that's never happened. Now, I have walked into some trailers with some, you know, some questionable ladies in there, but no, I just dropped the pizza off at the door and ran when I saw that happen. Have you been chased by death?
No, I don't think I've ever been chased by death, although, you know, maybe I have and I've just outrun him. Maybe that's why I'm here today, you know.
You better stay frosty, though.
I'm built for speed.
Oh,
look at me.
I've seen you run, Boat. I question that.
Now, Aaron, before we get into Deathchase, we need to give a shout out to Clive's Club. This is the group that picks these games for us. So we want to give big props to Mitsuyama, Richard Goulstone, Paul Bossman Harrington, McChessers, Jedburn, Justin Tinpot Gamer, Orkmeal, and Paul, aka Hermsky. Thank you guys for being part of Clive's Club.
Yeah, thanks, fellas.
Now, Aaron, let's just dive right in to the glory that is Deathchase.
Yes, you know, we've had a cup of coffee with this one, but
we have. This was episode. Do you remember what episode of our ARG Presents?
This was Was this the very first episode?
No, I believe this was episode 2. Episode 2.
Yeah, that first one we played Mule or something, right? Yeah. So this is one of the first Specky games I ever played.
Yeah,
you know, because we had very limited. It's funny how we thought, hey, let's make a Specky show. We had played practically nothing, so that was a lot of forethought there. And this one I remembered because I thought to myself, because the Specky looks so, you look at it, it's just this tiny little thing. You're like, what's this thing gonna do?
Right.
It's like a doorstop, and then it does stuff, good stuff. And this was my introduction to the good stuff. Deathchase, in case you haven't heard of it, or 3D Deathchase. There's a controversy about the name of this.
Right.
Where do you fall on that?
You know, here's what I think.
Yeah.
You always say what's on the box. And what's huge on the box? A
3D.
big old 3D.
Yeah.
So in my mind, forevermore, this will always be 3D Deathchase.
I'm right there with you. Anyway, the released from the Spectrum in '83, published by Micro Mega. This is the big money game. These are the games you could get like for dirt cheap. And even the re-release of this thing was still only £3. I mean, you can get a good deal on these things. This was authored by, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Mervyn J. Escort RB. I don't know, what's RB stand for?
Royal Blood. It's a title they have over
You're
there.
You're kidding me. Are you making that up?
Yes.
Oh, take up a boat. I didn't know. You had me. This runs on the 16K Specky. What a jerk you are. And originally this thing sold for the kingly sum of £7.
So even if it's in the forefront, it was pretty cheap.
Oh, yeah. You know how these things went, Boat. So let's talk about what the heck this game is. Because it's... I don't know. Did you read the docs on this?
There are docs?
Well, I looked at, you know, Spectrum games can often have skimpy docs because they've got to print them on the cassette inlay.
Yeah, the J card.
You know, and so as far as I can tell in this, it's your job to blow up things in the woods.
Yeah, you're a motorcycle riding mercenary.
That's right. Which, hey, that's all I need to know.
That's always been my dream occupation.
You know, now this came out in '83.
Yeah.
You know, now what else was kind of big in that era?
I'd say that was a Star Wars movie.
That's right. You had your Jedi, right? And you remember the cool scene on the forest moon of Endor, where they're going through the woods on those speeder bikes, right? This is sort of like the the low end clone equivalent of that, basically. Except in that, you were fighting,
Nazis.
What? Not what?
Oh.
You've never seen Return of the Jedi, have you?
What are we talking about?
Have you ever seen Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
I thought you were against violence and stuff.
I close my eyes during these parts.
So what about when the Ewoks were smashing people? Did you watch
hate that scene where the two logs come up and
they
crush
mush that thing?
That makes me shiver.
Why?
It's violent.
There's dudes in there, too.
I know. Think about their families, man.
What about the dudes that get shoved on those bikes at full speed and hit those trees?
They brought that upon themselves. They were going too fast.
I've been on a bike and hit a tree.
Really?
And it hurt.
Hose was with you, wasn't
That's right. Actually, it was a lamp post. But I went through a shrubbery when I did it.
If only there were smartphones back then.
Well, I mean, when you would know, we don't want that. But the thing is, when you have a context for the pain, you sort of feel bad. In this game, you're not running guys into trees, though, except for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you do feel the pain whenever you hit the tree.
Yeah.
What sticks out to you about this game? I mean, it's sort of, there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance when this thing comes up. What do you think about the game, as you load it up, or your first impressions on it?
I like the way that this game puts you right into the action.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of options.
No.
Basically, you select your Kimpston or your keyboard, and then you're ready.
Yeah.
Right? And you take off, and the first thing that you see is that the trees are moving by you. And one of the things that caught my eye, we play a lot of racing games on the Spectrum, on all the systems. I really like the way that the turning works in this game.
Yeah.
Because as you turn, you see kind of the front of your bike. You see your two hands. It's a unique perspective. I don't know if I've ever played another motorcycle game like this.
Yeah.
The two black cylinders that you see actually represent your hands or your arms. And you see yourself kind of twisting and turning. That's cool. That puts you in there, don't you think?
It looks like, can you imagine in real life, you ever rode a motorbike?
No.
You ever play
I've been on the back of one.
Really?
Yeah, when I lived in Bangkok.
Oh, who was driving?
Motorcycle taxi driver.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Oh, gosh, you don't even know.
Did they drive with their arms locked like this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That seems like you could, this seems bad for your arms, if anything.
It's weird because you never get any elbow action. And if I know anything about motorcycles, you got to have some elbow action.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you've got to shoot the gun on there, too.
Right.
I guess you shoot that with your hand.
That's a thumb trigger.
And you're also using the throttle and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'd put the gunshot thing on my foot.
You know what I do?
I don't. Or maybe you squeeze it with your thigh.
Well, I was going to say, remember Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins, the one-man band?
Yeah.
He moves his inner
symbols?
Yeah, he moves his inner thigh. That's what I did. You wouldn't believe how sensitive my inner thigh is.
I don't want to know, frankly. How does one's inner thigh get that sensitive?
It's training, man.
Do you play cymbals with it?
Sometimes.
Can you crack a coconut with your
That's
thigh?
the opposite of sensitivity. That's the iron thigh. That's a kung fu technique.
I don't want to know what that's used for, to be honest with you. So anyway, getting back to the game. I don't know where we get on that subject. You scoot through the woods, and what makes this game great is unlike a lot of games, we play a lot of Amiga games, you may have heard. And those games often take you and then violently throw you into the most dangerous part of the game. Where this game subtly ramps up. The first couple levels, it's a leisurely ride through a pastoral setting. Oh, and you're killing suckers.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then later on, okay, there's a few trees. And then you're killing suckers. And then later on, you're killing suckers and more trees. Oh, and here comes a tank or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then after a few levels, it's nighttime. You're at a Christmas tree farm. And your suckers coming everywhere.
Right.
That's the subtlety of the game. They did it right because it should ramp up. That's what makes it more fun. I was looking at the scores in the Discord, and there are every level of ability baked into that because I thought I did pretty good, and my score wasn't very good at all compared to the main guys. But I still felt like I got somewhere. It wasn't like I got instantly mauled.
Right.
So I think there's a lot to that.
We talk a lot about doing difficulty curve right, and we talk a lot about making the player feel like they've accomplished something.
That's right.
And I'll tell you what this game does that's great. Like you said, it starts off nice and easy. It lets you get the lay of the land. You obviously know what to do. If you're driving a motorcycle and there's trees, you need to avoid the trees, okay? But the way that the day-night cycle works, it makes you feel like the game is broken up into sections.
Yeah.
Even though there's literally no variety in the gameplay other than it ramping up, just knowing and the words come up, day patrol, night patrol, it makes you feel like you're part of the world. And I know that's kind of silly to say in a game as simple as this, but it really did make a difference.
Something else I like is the enemy bikers. They do look like they go through. They sort of look like you would probably look on the back. They're moving back and forth through the woods. It makes it look cool, and it does give you that feeling that you're pursuing someone.
Right.
You couldn't do a perfect indoor type deal, but you can. What they did here was come very close to simulating that. Something else I like about it is this game is one of the few games, like they should transfer this to VR. Like this should be a VR game because this game gives you the sense of that perspective. I mean, it's very unnerving sometimes when you're in these woods and you're jerking around back and forth trying to get to these trees, and it really gives you that sense of speed.
You know, that's the thing. We talk about this all the time when we talk about racing games. What do you want out of a racing game? A game where you're on a vehicle and you're moving fast. You want to feel like you're moving fast. You don't want to feel like you're chugging along. And for 16K or whatever this game fits in, it's amazing the sense of speed that you get. I mean, and you find yourself, you know, shifting back and forth as you weave through the trees. It's amazing, and I don't even know how they do it. I mean, obviously, there's no true sprite scaling on the Spectrum. Yeah. But it really does feel like you're approaching these trees, and they're passing you by, and you see trees coming up. The thing that I love about this game too is this is really one of the games. I'm glad that we started out with the Spectrum on this because this is really one of the games that is a true Spectrum game in that it moves fast, it plays well, and it uses every color in the thing. So you've got the trees are sort of purplish. You've got the greenery around you. Everything is a different color. So I love the fact that it uses the broad spectrum of colors.
Yeah, I will say now there's a great feeling you get when you shoot a guy and complete a level, but the feeling that you get when you shoot a guy and complete a level and you're 1 inch away from hitting a tree, because as soon as that's one of the, it's amazing. Your different patrols start at the exact same point that you finished, and so I can't tell you how many times I would start the game and just instantly ram a tree. And so that's one thing I would have liked to have seen it reset after you go through a cycle. And this, I would have liked to have seen some of the additional vehicles do stuff. You know, they're just sort of like targets. I mean, the trees are obviously the offensive weapon.
Well, if you think about it, if you're chasing other motorcycles, the other motorcycles can't really. I mean, I guess they could drop like oil slicks and stuff, but the game is sort of hard enough without any of that.
You got tanks and helicopters.
They're off in the distance.
Well, I mean, you're shooting them.
Yeah.
They're just gonna take it.
Yeah.
They got a helicopter. They could come bomb you or something.
It is kind of weird how the helicopter only remains off in the distance. But what are you gonna do? This is another game where adding the things like the tank and the helicopter, they didn't need to do that. They really could have phoned this in and just put the other motorcycles in there.
They could have added more motorcycles. That would have been, and something else. How the heck's a helicopter going to get in these woods?
Well, that's why you see it just briefly comes down and lifts off again.
It does?
Yeah.
And the tank, I could get that.
Right.
But then why aren't there trees knocked down? If the tank's going through there. So
I think you're asking a lot.
Well, I know. And I will say, having played all these Spectrum games we played, this one actually always stuck with me as one of the best ones we played.
Other things that are great about this game is that when you fire a shot, you see the shot travel through space. Yeah. It's not as if when you line up correctly with one of the other riders, it just explodes them, which would have been the easy way out. So this game, I mean, it sets out to do something. It sets out to give you a Return of the Jedi-like experience on a motorcycle. It succeeds on that. It succeeds in the fact that you have a multitude of, you got different bikers, you got the tank, you got the helicopter, you're patrolling at different parts of the day. I mean, to me, the only thing this game is really missing is I wish that when you return, like when you finish a patrol, it would be great is like, as you see the trees coming by, you see some sort of a structure, that you drive up to. Like a base, and that ends the patrol.
There is one thing we should touch on. This game has brain-melting, horrific death sound. Yeah. Like, it makes you want to rip out your own ears. It's so bad.
Oh, it's a beeping.
Well, it simulates an engine. Yeah. But not well. It's absolutely horrible.
The sound is what you would expect from a 48K.
It's got one of the worst noises, and it won't stop. Yeah. So that's no good. Yeah. I would have preferred anything.
And especially when you consider that the people that were playing this on the 48K or the 16K Spectrum had no way to turn that off.
Well, surely they put a turn off button.
No, I don't think you can turn the sound off.
That's hideous. So that if this game has any down votes for me, it's because of the sound and because of the fact that you can start right where a tree's at and then instantly die. But otherwise, I like it. I looked this up on the I looked this up for reviews here, Boat. Did we get any Discord action on this, by the way?
We did.
Beautiful. You want to go to that first?
Yeah. Let me pull that up real quick. We had quite a few. This is a very popular game.
I had fun with it.
I'm scrolling up to the top here. Man. We got a lot going on the old Deathchase. Here we go. We're going to start with Will Brooker. Will Brooker says, Deathchase was the second release by Mervyn Estcourt, RB. who had grown up in working-class 1950s Bristol and became a docker after leaving school.
What's that mean?
He worked out on the docks.
Oh, a docker.
Yeah.
I thought you were just being cute to say doctor.
No.
Okay, I didn't know. Like maybe using some kind of accent, like a British accent or Welsh or something.
Listen.
You know, I go fetch me a docker. I've got a sore throat.
Is that your Welsh? It's pretty good.
I don't know. Maybe. That's it.
Getting back to the review, Mervin's previous escort, Luna Crabs, shares a science fiction premise and 3D point of view, while his fascination with motorbikes continued in Full Throttle, which also seems to share some of the Deathchase graphics. Full Throttle sold more, but I think Deathchase remains Escort's most important and memorable contribution to the Spectrum games scene. The best Return of the Jedi simulator ever made for the machine, far better than the official adaptation by Domark, which was released a full 6 years later, and probably the most impressive first-person 3D action on the Spectrum until Space Harrier in 1986. Escort apparently disappeared after Full Throttle, so the story of how a 35-year-old docker produced 3 slick, smooth games and then vanished remains a mystery. He's 74 now if he's still around. While it's a small miracle he packed Deathchase into 16K, it would be good to see what Escort would have done with 48K or even 128K, and how he might have expanded this pure manic steering and shooting game into something more nuanced and sophisticated. That said, this remains one of the Spectrum's best examples of just one more go.
That was like a history. Like, who was that, Will?
Will.
What do you think about this guy?
Well, Will's offered several books on the Spectrum. He writes academic papers.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
What do you think you could make it as a docker?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty muscular.
Yeah.
I'm sort of, my only love's the sea.
Uh-huh.
So
your love and your lady is the sea.
That's right. That song was written about
Have you ever worn dockers?
Yeah, most of my khakis in high school were dockers.
I wonder if those guys wear those when they're working.
I think they were
required. Is that where they got the name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one.
Jed Burns says, Deathchase is a shining example of the golden age of ZX Spectrum games when there was so much freshness and originality. The game is so simple, but the thrill of slaloming through the trees at high speed is pure and visceral. Nothing else has matched it. Skyrunner, released in 1987, follows the same gameplay but fails to match the excitement. I think it's because of the way Deathchase's trees tower over you, their branches disappearing off the top of the screen. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mr. Rocket writes, Deathchase is one of the several early Specky games that made me, a jealous BBC owner, envious of my next-door neighbor Ed in the early 80s. Screw Ed, I hate that guy. It's a wonderfully addictive game. For the day and only 16K, the 3D effect is pretty special. The sense of rushing through the trees, hell-bent on running down the motorcyclist ahead of you, is still exhilarating to this day. When you step back and really look at it, it's a pretty simple game. There are only a couple different opponents, and other than the day-night change, there's not much variation, but somehow you just can't stop playing it. Jigglebox writes, following on from Orkmeal last month, here's a short review in the style of a limerick.
Oh, jeez.
Would you like to apply your Welsh to this?
No, okay, you better go handle it.
A motorbike chase to the death. So speedy it's hard to draw breath. The thickets get denser, the gameplay intenser, but on the whole, it's a really good game. It's one of the all-time classics on the Spectrum. You kind of dropped the ball in the last line there. 10 out of 10 from Jigglebox.
Is that the way a limerick works?
Maybe.
Do you put numbers in a limerick like that?
Yeah, I think it's a series of numbers.
Oh, I see.
Jazz Dog writes, once as a child, a moth flew into my ear and lodged solidly. The sound emitting from what must surely be the worst-tuned motorcycle engine in history, sounding much like a moth's frantic flapping inside an ear canal, brought back the trauma of that night. Joining and bolstering that auditory assault comes a hypnotic feeling as the trees pass all around you. Just as the broken white road on a car journey can hypnotize you, so can evidently poorly rendered trees from 1983. As the game drew me deeper into this hypnotic state, trees whipping past faster and faster, it occurred to me that this was the developer's plan all along. Surely this is an early CIA attempt to see if subliminal messages can be loaded into a person's brain while they game. Each tree that zips past having subliminal text hidden in the art. Obey, consume, submit. I now feel it's my patriotic duty to tell you all to play this game as much as possible. 6 MK Ultras out of 10.
Man, Jazz doesn't need to screw around.
No. Mick Chessers. He writes, I was 7 years old when Return of the Jedi came out. I remember sitting in the cinema and instinctively dodging and dodging in my seat during the speeder bike sequence, utterly transported to the forest moon of Endor. A short time later, when my dad called me through to see a new game he'd acquired for our rubber-keyed Specky, I must admit to being a trifle disappointed that Deathchase replaced hovering speeder bikes with what I thought of as boring old earthbound motorcycles and laser blasts with whatever that weird blob thing is that launches from the front of your bike.
Spotlight.
Yeah. Once I got to play it myself, though, these childish complaints melted away and I was quickly absorbed. I soon became quite skillful at taking down the enemy bikers, tanks, and helicopters while dodging the trees that whipped past at an impressive pace. That was nearly 40 years ago, but Deathchase is still the one game I play whenever I set up a Speccy emulator on a new piece of hardware. Even without my rose-tinted nostalgia goggles, that Mervin Escort managed to wring such a convincing feeling of speed out of the Spectrum in just 16K no less is incredibly impressive. The gameplay loop is simple, sure, but dodging those bright red trees as they fly past while chasing the elusive bikers is still just as thrilling. 10 out of 10.
Man.
You ready for Batman? Batman's weighing in.
Yeah.
He says, Deathchase was given to me by a pal in my very early Spectrum days. To my then young eyes, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Insanely addictive to pick up and play fun that was so fast and vicious on the later levels. It was an early favorite and remains so to this day. 10 out of 10.
Batman could have one of those bikes.
Yeah. Pajako writes, I came to the Specky quite late, having downgraded from a BBC Micro. So whilst I was I really hate that word.
Whilst?
See, that's not how they say it, though. That's how we say it.
Just say Docker.
Okay. So Docker, I was aware of 3D Deathchase. I never got around to playing it. And what I found with yet another gem was an early Specky game, true to the sound and colors are a little grating on my modern eyes and ears, but it's enjoyable and intense game. Dockers, I initially thought the game was way too easily. It soon ramped up the difficulty and I was smacking into trees and actually physically moving left and right and making those odd noises you do when you think you are about to buy the farm in a video game. From the other reviews I read, there are a few tricks and this game isn't very long if you can get to the end, but if you're like me and you haven't played it before, do give it a go. You'll be pleasantly surprised. A tremendous 8 out of 10. D-Man writes, he says, I didn't play this when it was first released and only came across it later in the Spectrum's lifetime during the cover tape wars, so no Return of the Jedi comparisons for me. Instead, just a very quick, pure arcade experience packed into a mere 16K. Ranks very highly on the Just One More Go scale and an undoubtable classic in the canon of early Spectrum games, 9 out of 10. And finally, Mitsuyama himself writes, arcade gaming distilled to its essence and squeezed into 16K. The graphics aren't great and the sound isn't the best, but the gameplay is fantastically addictive. My only minor complaint is that once you suss out the tactics, it becomes a game of endurance rather than skill, but still satisfying to beat your high score. Highly recommended, 9 out of 10. And speaking of the high score challenge, Aaron, we should talk
I did horribly, man.
About that.
Yeah.
Because we had many a high score on Deathchase. Looks like we had 4 contestants entering scores. Jigglebox reigned supreme with an unimaginable score of 423,986.
That was even higher than the one I saw that made me give up.
Yeah.
I saw Mitsuyama's. I was like, I can't get that.
Mitsuyama, D-Man, and Hermsky took 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Congratulations to everyone who took part.
You know, my score was like, I mean, I thought I did great. It was like 19K.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got 300 and some or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. They're playing on a different level for sure.
Yeah.
What were the magazine reviews of this like, Aaron?
This thing did pretty well in the rags. They were Crash gave it a 92. I like Glitch Watch. That can't be a retro magazine. 4 out of 5. This does pretty good. Crash in 84 gave this a 92. Personal Computer Games give it an 80. Computer Video Games give it a 78. These scores are lower than you would expect, aren't they? Your Sinclair gave this a 60.
That's crazy.
It's funny how these games get panned back in the day, and then like people still love them.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that, not everybody working at your Sinclair knew what they were talking about.
Oh, so they're just dumb.
Because it's one person's opinion.
Yeah.
Think about all the Crash smashes we played that are total duds. Like Underworld, what a piece of garbage that was.
What?
Yeah.
I don't,
all the Ultimate Play the Game games, overrated.
Man, what are you trying to do here?
Bury the Spectrum.
Oh, well, I'm not going to get involved in that. I like it. I don't know what is it with you. That's sus. I heard him use that word.
Suss it out.
Sus.
I want to punch somebody in the face when they say that.
I hear that now.
Figure it out.
I'm too old.
They try to be cute when they say stuff like that.
What's it short for?
Susical? I don't know.
Is that short for something?
I don't know.
Help me out. I'm old.
The Brits, they make up words just to confuse Americans.
I've heard people in America say that.
Well, they're trying to act British.
Okay, there you go. Suspect. See, that's what I thought.
See,
he
Cola,
didn't know.
He's one of these guys that uses the British words all the time, so he
knows. He's
like
22 or something.
Yeah.
That's why.
He's a young man. They talk different.
He knows what's going on. It just irritates me. I can't communicate with people no more.
we've lost the thread here, Aaron.
I'm
what
sorry.
are we doing?
I'm sorry, dude. Let's take this thing to the house.
All right. Well,
I want to make 2 announcements that are ZX related real quick. You know our good buddy Happy Coding.
yeah.
Happy Coding wanted to celebrate the fact that we had BOATFEST cooking here. And so he did 2 things, and we'll disperse these amongst the Puritans here. First of all, he was very kind, and he made a ZX version of Attic Attack where he put me, you, and the Brent in the game.
Yeah.
And released that. He just sent a note while we were watching this that he had taken and done basically a remix of Deathchase for the 48K Spectrum that runs like 20% faster.
Wow.
So if you think you're some kind of hot stuff, you can play that. We were just talking about how great we were at it. We'll take on Happy's version, but we want to thank you, Happy. Happy does a good job, and he always has a weekly ZX Spectrum coding class that he does on his channel. Check him out at Happy Coding ZX. Thank you, Happy. We wish you were here.
All right, Aaron. It's time to bid a fond farewell to 3D Deathchase. Listeners, we want to hear your feedback. Actually, listeners here live at BOATFEST, does anybody want to come up for a live review of Deathchase? Anybody have something to say about 3D Deathchase?
I'll say one thing. It's not on the Spectrum version, but the Spectrum version was so popular that the Dragon got a late port of it in 2009.
Really?
Yeah.
64 or 32?
32.
Interesting. Thank you, Curtis.
Let's try that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
They did change one thing. There's no night patrol. There's a winter patrol instead.
A wild cola approaches. Do you fight or run?
So I spot a cola.
All right. So Deathchase, I don't know where the camera is. There it is. Hello, camera. So Deathchase, it is one of the first games I ever played for the ZX Spectrum. Go play it if you've not played it. It's definitely awesome what they squeezed out of 16K. Everything that's been said before, great sense of speed. It's strangely addictive. You just kind of want to keep one more go, just see what crazy stuff it's going to throw at you. It's pretty much the same stuff over and over, but it's faster and a little bit more frantic. But yeah, go play Deathchase. I fully approve Deathchase.
Use the force.
Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you, Cola.
Good job, Cola. Come on, give him something. Give him something. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Well, if you would like to leave your own comment about Deathchase, please leave us a note on YouTube. We release this show in both audio podcast and video format on YouTube at bit.ly/OurSinclair. We record live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. If you want to support our show, you can visit patreon.com/OurSinclair. We do have the goal up there. If we can get to $200 a month in Patreon support, which we are getting very close to that, Our Sinclair will morph from a monthly show into a weekly show, which would be super awesome. Which leads us to our Sinclair roll call. We want to thank Russ Smith, Pajako6502, Will Brooker, Wonderly Chesum, Stephen Wilcott, Chartel, Nathan Mills, David Terrace, Doug Berry, Jigglebox, Will Brooker, David Terrace, Andrew Waite, Eric Nelson, Cap and Crispy, Laurent Giroux, Mark Downey, Peter Mullen, Chris Folds, Mark Durham, and Pixels at Dawn. So thank you guys. And of course, if you are watching this live at BOATFEST, thank you all for coming. If you're watching this live on Twitch, thank you for watching us. If you want to hear more from me and Aaron, check out Amigos, Everything Amiga. We got the CoCo Show, the Atari ST Show, and of course there's ARG Presents, especially this special BOATFEST episode. You don't want to miss this when this drops, where Aaron and the Brent spin the wheel and make the deal, sometimes multiple times in the same show. All these shows can be found on the Amigos Retro Gaming YouTube channel or at anchor.fm/Amigos Podcast. Aaron, what's coming up on Our Sinclair next time?
Find out, bud.
Transformers? Transformers.
Oh man, I haven't heard good things about
this. This has not been a license that's been used well over the years.
This has a Thundercats level of noise around it, but not exactly excited about this one. So we'll see. It can't be that bad.
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, get on it. It's time to play Transformers. Fire it up at your BOATFEST right now. There's a Spectrum Plus 2 right over there. Leave us a note on Discord. We want to hear your thoughts. And Aaron, it's time to close it out. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. Rewind, tape,
and press play.